Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a highly charged, incredibly sweeping political analysis from a recent YouTube short by the channel Promethean Updates. It's a really fascinating look at how today's explosive political rhetoric is actually being framed around deep, historical economic theories. We're going to break down the source's core argument, that the current political friction we're seeing in Washington isn't just your standard partisan bickering. Rather, it's the visible sparks of a massive, underlying economic paradigm shift. We'll look at exactly how the source defines the players, the stakes, and the history behind this alleged conflict. Let's jump right in. All right, part one, the Capitol Hill witch trials.
Right out of the gate, the source sets a dramatic stage. I mean, we're not just talking about tough confirmation hearings here. The creator actually compares the opposition to a literal witch trial. Look at this quote. They're arguing that the establishment is treating these incoming nominees like witches who need to be tied up and burned at the stake. It's a wildly vivid, almost theatrical picture of total irrational panic. Basically, the video's creator sees a level of hysteria in the Senate and House that goes completely beyond normal political vetting. So, you might be wondering, why the panic? Well, the source argues this isn't just standard political theater. The surface-level hysteria, think the metaphorical pitchforks and torches, that's actually a reaction to a much deeper, unseen threat. The establishment isn't really afraid of the individual nominees themselves. They're terrified of a profound, impending shift in our entire economic system. It's kind of like the panic of an old guard, realizing the fundamental rules of the game are about to radically change right beneath their feet. The political theater, that's just the allergic reaction to this structural earthquake. Moving on to Section 2, Clashing Economic Philosophies. Here, the source draws a major line in the sand between two warring ideologies. On one side, we have what the creator heavily criticizes as the British imperial system. Now, this refers to the familiar invisible hand and the global rules-based order, frameworks that, according to the source, have completely gutted American economic independence over the decades. How? By shipping production overseas and putting finance way above industry. Pitted against that is the American system. This is an unapologetically nationalist model designed to aggressively unleash the country's domestic productive power. So what we're looking at is globalism versus nationalism, stripped down to the absolute studs.
Which brings us to Section 3, the new American system. To really understand the policies allegedly coming our way, the source points to a fascinating historical callback made by Scott Bessent at the Reagan Economic Forum. Bessent didn't just quote some modern 21st century economist to justify these new moves. Nope, he channeled founding father Alexander Hamilton. And the core Hamiltonian belief driving this whole new era? True national wealth doesn't come from just shuffling money around Wall Street or relying on foreign supply chains. It comes directly from the tangible, physical, productive power of labor right at home. It's a very deliberate, historical grounding for a massive pivot. And to force this Hamiltonian vision into reality, the administration isn't exactly asking politely. The source claims they're preparing to pull three massive levers: industrial policies, tariff policies, and credit policies. This is absolutely crucial because it's a total, unapologetic rejection of the hands-off, laissez-faire economics we've all grown so used to. By using aggressive tariffs to protect domestic industries and controlling credit to fuel local manufacturing, the goal is to heavily restructure the economy from the top down. The ultimate aim here? Rebuild the industrial base and regain complete sovereign independence.
Ultimately, the argument here is that you simply cannot separate the factory floor from the battlefield. The philosophy is simple but profound: absolute economic strength. And by that, they mean physically making your own goods, growing your own food, and entirely controlling your own microchips and tech is the mandatory foundation for national defense. Without that absolute economic sovereignty, the source claims your defense posture and your foreign policy are pretty much just empty threats. Think about it. You can't project power globally if you rely on the rest of the globe to build your weapons, right?
Let's look at Section 4, Key Voices and Policies. Now, if you're thinking this is just one rogue cabinet member's pet project, the source urges you to look a little closer at the sheer coordination happening across the board. Look at the players. You've got Scott Bessent talking about the economy at the Reagan Economic Forum, Pete Hegseth discussing defense in Singapore, Marco Rubio giving Senate testimony on foreign policy, and Peter Navarro laser-focused on industry and trade. The video argues they are all singing the exact same song from the exact same sheet music. This unified, multi-departmental push against the old system is exactly what the creator believes is triggering that Capitol Hill hysteria we talked about earlier. It's framed as a highly coordinated offensive across all branches of governments.
All right, Section 5, a century-long historic shift.
To really grasp the stakes here, the source zooms out a full century. They make the claim that we haven't seen a true American system administration since President William McKinley back in the late 1800s. Just think about the gravity of that for a second. The argument is that the entire 20th century was an era where the British imperial system actively and successfully suppressed American economic independence. The establishment basically thought they had won, that the debate was over, until this current populist movement arrived to wake the American system from a literal 100-year slumber. Which brings us to the source's grand, sweeping thesis. This is not being framed as just your standard four-year policy shift. No way. It's framed as the absolute climax of a century-long economic war. By returning to this American system, championed by Donald Trump and his cabinet, the creator believes this provides the only basis upon which we are ever going to defeat empire once and forever. It's presented as an existential battle for sovereign survival with the goal of dismantling the globalist structure permanently. So what does this all mean? The crucial question we're left with is this. If this historical pivot actually takes hold, if the United States completely tears down the 20th century rules-based global order and replaces it with this revived 19th century American system of aggressive tariffs and industrial control, how will that permanently alter the global balance of power? It's a massive, fascinating question that's going to play out not just in the history books, but right now on Capitol Hill, and eventually in our daily lives, from the prices we pay to the jobs we do. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.